I'm Bonya McGarrity, and in the fall of 1961, Vernon Presley, Elvis's dad, hired me to be a secretary out at Graceland. Elvis's popularity was huge. The letters were pouring in and piling high, so my job was to answer the fan mail. Vernon composed a form letter, and I copied that letter on a cylinder-style mimeograph machine. So I cranked out thousands of fan letters, one letter at a time. Marty Lacker, one of Elvis's friends, many times would come out to the office and he would help me open the fan mail. And the letters had photographs and we would put the letters into photo albums. Well, one day Marty was out and we were opening mail and he said, "Here comes Elvis." And before I knew it, Elvis had entered the office, and as he came forward to my desk, he had his hand extended. And I introduced myself, and we had a pleasant conversation, and it turned out that he knew my dad, who was a local country music entertainer. My dad used to love to tell stories about when Elvis was younger, and he would come to see their shows that he would offer to help my dad carry his double bass. My favorite story about Elvis was in late 1962, Dee and Vernon had a party, and the purpose of the party was to introduce Priscilla to all of the employees at Graceland and to the friends that she had not already met. I happened to be sitting right by the doorway into the living room where everyone was sitting around in chairs, and as Priscilla came down the stairway, she was making a grand entrance, and she was absolutely beautiful. And Dee and Vernon turned to me and introduced her to me, and then they went on around the room. Well, while this was going on, since I was right by the doorway and the entry, I noticed over my shoulder that Elvis was coming down the steps also. And instead of coming down the middle of the steps, he had his shoulder against the wall, and he was sliding, kind of sneaking down the steps so that no one would see him. And then when he got to the bottom of the steps, he turned the corner and disappeared. After Priscilla was introduced to everyone, Vernon and Dee invited the guests to come into the dining room and have refreshments. And as I went into the dining room, I discovered where Elvis had disappeared to. He was sitting in a chair all by himself in the dining room. And as I thought about that, it occurred to me that he was being respectful of Priscilla, and that he knew that if he came into the living room, that the attention would be taken away from her, and that he would be the center of attention. So I think at that time he was still very shy. He was definitely a caring and gracious person, and I feel really fortunate to have been a secretary for 2 years. I feel pretty lucky that day that I went out to meet with Vernon, and he said to me, "Well, if you can start tomorrow, come on." And I'm really glad that I did.